Today, I'm going to walk you through how I create more than 25 pieces of quality content every week in less than 30 minutes per day.
Welcome to Payrollin', the show where you will learn how to operate and grow your payroll business from the most dynamic minds in the business. If your company offers payroll services, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Matt Vady. Let's go.
Thanks for joining me today. Today, I'm going to walk through the concepts that I use, how I block my time, and how I create a bunch of content in only 30 minutes a day so that I'm not spending all my time creating content, but I'm driving tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of impressions every single week in just 2.5 hours. So how do I go about this? You've probably seen somebody online where you said, man, does that person ever work? I feel like all they do is create content. How do they have the time? Well, the reality is what they're doing is they're creating what's called pillar content and then branching pieces off from that content. So pillar content would be exactly what it sounds like. Pillars of content that are either long form or written. An example of pillar content might be a podcast, could be a newsletter, could be a blog. It's something that you're then taking and turning into multiple other pieces of content to repurpose. And we're going to get into in the next video a content strategy to help you to make sure that you stay on brand with your content so that you can resonate with your audience on a deeper level. But today we're going to talk mostly about that pillar content and how to niche that down. So in a given week, I'm spending 30 minutes. For me personally, it's 8 a.m. to 8:30 every morning. I sit down at my desk. I know that's content creation time. Some days it's writing. Some days it's doing this, recording. Other days it's distributing the content. But I know I've got that time blocked so I can create, schedule, and post content at that time. So how my week typically looks is I spend Monday and Tuesday spending 30 minutes writing, and I start with a newsletter. So we have a newsletter called Growth Models. I write that newsletter. It goes out to thousands of people. I then take that, I turn it into a blog post that we put on our website. This video, YouTube videos, these videos will be turned into shorts. I will also turn this audio into a podcast. I will then turn the text into multiple social posts, not only for my personal page, but for my company page and on multiple platforms. So now I've taken one thing that I've written, one concept, and getting a little meta today because we're talking about pillar content and I'm using this process with the pillar content. But that's how I take one thing that I wrote that effectively is only about 700 words and turned it into all these different pieces of content throughout a week. Now, if you follow Gary Vaynerchuk at all, you know that he's a big proponent of pillar content and talks about turning this into 64 pieces of content in a day. That's all well and good, but I am a CEO of multiple companies. I don't have time to spend on that. I have team and resources to do that, but I also don't necessarily see the value in having 64 pieces of content every day. Let me ask you a question. Are you the go-to person in your market for payroll and HR? Are you the first face and name somebody thinks of when they think about who am I going to refer this person that needs help with their payroll and HR support? If not, you might want to look into our executive LinkedIn management service through Underdog Digital. Underdog Digital is a sponsor of this show, and they've seen results such as, I'm looking at one profile right here where over the course of 6 months, they increased views by over 200%, more than 600,000 views on these posts in less than 6 months. Another one, plus 1,000% increase in 8 new conversations in the first 30 days. This is a tremendous service to help you to become the go-to person for payroll and HR outsourcing in your market. They create content for you, engage with other people in your space, send connection requests, and do outreach to generate conversations that do nothing more than create valuable relationships with your target audience. If you're interested in learning more about Underdog Digital's executive LinkedIn management service, go to underdogdigital.co. That's underdogdigital.co. But we do want a lot of content in the targeted places where our audience lives so that we can be there when they're looking for information related to whether that's marketing, whether that's HR, whether that's organizational culture. We want to make sure that we're in front of our audience at the right times with good content that's consistently on message, which is very important to have a strategy so that you can sit down on that Monday morning and just write and just be able to record by Wednesday or Thursday and be able to distribute by Friday. You can't be sitting down thinking about topics on Monday. So the most important thing is starting with a content strategy, which is understanding who is your target audience, what do they care about, where do they consume content. One thing you notice is I didn't say I want to be on every platform. So if you're going to the Gary Vaynerchuk model, you're going to be on 7, 8, 9, 10 different platforms. I'm trying to keep it to just a couple of platforms for simplicity's sake, plus for optimization's sake. I think you've got to have a great message that resonates clearly with a target audience on one platform before you can worry about even expanding to multiple platforms. So don't make that mistake of trying to get 60 followers here, 25 followers there. Don't be all things to all people. Go where your target audience is and create the content that answers the questions, concerns, challenges that they have on a regular basis. And so if you're struggling to create a bunch of quality content at scale, take this model, use it for yourself, create content a little bit. So 30 minutes a day, block that time. Or if you're the type of person that likes to block it all in one big 2.5-hour task, block that time on a Monday or Friday afternoon where you're going to go through, write that newsletter, edit it, turn it into video content, turn it into social posts, and distribute it with a scheduling tool so that you can stay in front of your target audience and get, we get upward of 50,000 to 200,000 to sometimes 500,000 impressions per week off of this content. So it's worth the time investment. If you had the opportunity to stand up in front of a group of 50,000 people in a week and reach them, I guarantee you would do it if you're a small business owner. So take this opportunity to repurpose your content, create content at scale, and distribute it every week. If you enjoyed this, please make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and thank you so much for following along. We appreciate you. If you enjoyed that episode, please share it with someone else you know who might enjoy it and learn from this. And also, please rate us 5 stars on your favorite podcast player. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen. And also, don't hesitate to reach out with other topics you'd like to hear more about. Thanks so much.